that her snoring or?
4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, good evening, and this is the Commissioners' meeting of Cumberland County for Monday, November 7th, 2022. I would like to call this meeting to order. Is all of you, who would like, to stand up and would join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, will please do so. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The first item for this evening is the approval of the minutes of October 11th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Do I have any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, I call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Under the informational reports and more presentations, Jim, I'm just assuming that is with the newsletter that was in our packet. I don't see anybody here to speak on it, or would you like to speak on it?
Nope, it's Melinda from the Regional Communications Center has submitted her most recent newsletter for the commissioners to understand what CCRCC is doing. But while I have the opportunity to speak, Commissioner,
Yes.
if I could, I'd like to introduce the county's new EMA director, Michael Durkin, Michael, thank you for showing up.
Nice to meet you.
Michael has an item on the consent calendar, and that's the annual approval of the ESGP grant funds that his office works through on an annual basis. But I thought it would also be a great opportunity to introduce Michael to the commissioners, as Michael has just taken over the director's role about 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
After serving about a month plus as the acting director while we were going through some things. Michael comes with a whole host of knowledge in the EMA world, and just listening to him and talking to him the last month, I really like his philosophy and how he's going to take EMA to that next level. And his working relationship with the existing staff up there is top-notch. So I'm very excited to have Michael as our new director here for Cumberland County. So welcome aboard, Michael.
Welcome.
Glad to have you.
Yeah.
Would you
Great.
like to say a couple words?
I'll
3
just-
minutes or less.
I'll tell you, I've been going around talking to kind of different fire chiefs, different police chiefs, et cetera, and I'll give you kind of the same spiel I give them, which is emergency management's here to help. We are kind of the conductors of the orchestra, if you will. I'm not a cop. I'm not a fire chief. I know just enough about those tasks to kind of organize them in really complex situations. And you as elected officials, I'm not an elected official, but again, I know just enough about your role to help you guys do what you need to do in a significant countywide disaster, et cetera. So I make myself a resource to all of them, and I'll make myself one to you as well. If there's a big disaster, you'll be hearing from me. And so my job is to help guide you through that process and help you get the resources you need. And if you ever have questions or need any help with anything, EMA is here to help you. If you haven't been to the bunker in Wyndham, we welcome you. Come pay us a visit sometime.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Welcome aboard. Okay, is comments from the public? Do we have any public here? Seeing none, okay, we can move on. On the consent agenda, Neil, would you like to read those two, please?
Certainly. Item 22-115, authorize the county managers to accept a grant award of $15,879 from the Mid-Coast Council of Governments for an electronic mobile sign for the town of Harpswell. And 22-116, looks like, authorize the county to accept the 2022 Homeland Security Grant funds for the main EMA that we just talked about for $686,155.81 and allocate them as proposed.
I have a question on the electronic mobile sign.
Do we need to move?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Move passage.
Do I have
I'll
a
second
I'll do
that.
a second.
And then
And then?
Discussion.
Okay, discussion, I'm
I
sorry.
think on
Wait a
consent
minute,
calendar,
this is a
you can't
consent-
have discussion, you gotta take it off the consent calendar.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Or we can just discuss it.
I'll just ask at a later date if that sign will be allowed to be used in other places. So, I call for.
Move the consent agenda.
Okay. Do we have a second, or did we have a second?
Already did that,
Oh,
already.
we did that. Okay, I call for a vote on the consent account.
Aye.
Okay. Whew. Okay, well, the next is operable business, 22-117. But Jim, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you. This is an awarded bid to Optiply, Inc. for the Cumberland County's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Consulting Services of $49,125. The reason this is needed is that, as the commissioners are aware, Cumberland County is doing a lot of work under the equity framework under APA. And the framework is used to create equity goals and targets for the funds to be directed towards. The U.S. Treasury requires the county to report qualitative and quantitative data that outlines our approach to promoting equitable outcomes and our progress toward our goals and target equity. The county is spending significant amount of ARPA funds towards capacity within Cumberland County. The goal of the DEI consultant is to help the county create an internal DEI action plan that the county can use as a tool in its toolbox for hiring and retention of its employees. The DEI action plan will help the county create a shared understanding of the commitment to equity and develop tools and practices to support equity-centered solutions. Optipile was not the lowest bid, they were the second lowest. The low bid was HSCH. However, part of the due diligence process with the bidders, we found that we received not as good references on HCH. And we had concerns with moving forward with them on some of the things that we heard. And so we have taken the second low bid, and that is Optipile, in the amount of $49,125. So I'd ask for the commissioner's support on this, as this is the next step and a needed resource within our ARPA program. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner.
Jim, I do have a question about this. Is this primarily directed at our internal hiring? I mean, is this a resource that gets to wander its way down to the employment or the HR office, or is this broader than that?
It's broader than that. It's a much larger policy that looks at many different facets of our organization, from our office setups to our policies to our hiring process. It will go through a full review of our organization to provide a good framework and direction for us to develop further policies, fix the policies that we have, but also take that next step on where we needed to have pointed trainings in the years to come.
Okay, and that was actually my second question. It seemed like it was nowhere near enough money to be a county-wide kind of programming concept development. So I assume this is really for our organization to hone its compliance with those policies and
Correct.
and values. So, okay, that's the questions I had. Thanks.
Do we have any other questions? Okay. Do I have a
Move
motion?
passage.
Do I have a second? Okay. If no further discussion, I call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to new business. Well, Jim, I'm going to turn this over to you. It's in regards to the vehicles.
Okay, thank you. Back in April, the commissioners approved order 22-037, 20-43, to Quirk Auto. It was our annual purchase of sheriff's office vehicles that we do annually. Everything was good to go back then. But over the last 30 to 45 days, Captain Joyce of the Sheriff's Office had received notice from Quirk Auto that they were going to be unable to fulfill our order. And they canceled the order on us, preventing us from receiving up, I think, 12 vehicles on that order. Captain Joyce spun pretty quick and went hunting and teamed up with Fleet Maintenance, and they both, they looked at MHQ, which is a contractor that we have for the fit-up of our vehicles, but MHQ also has a side arm of selling vehicles also. And Captain Joyce did find that they had vehicles that would meet our needs, so that we would not go a year without getting any new vehicles in. And so he acted very quickly, because as you can imagine, if Quirk was canceling our order, there was probably many more orders across the United States that were being canceled. He acted very quickly after talking with Alex a number of times, and we authorized him to purchase 11 of the 12 vehicles that was originally proposed back in April. We asked for 11 out of 12 on the sheer fact that we have a finite number budgeted, and these vehicles were about $1,500 a piece more than what we had under the Quirk bid. Captain ordered them, and we're just following up. I gave authorization to order them. We're following up with the commissioners to make this legal and have a paper trail on how we work through this process on the fleet purchase for the sheriff's office this year. So I'd ask for the commissioners to approve Order 22-118 and purchase 11 vehicles from MHQ of Marlborough, Mass. For the benefit of the sheriff's office. Thank you.
Move passage.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Did I have a question? Do we think that this is going to be an ongoing issue, like for the next budget periods?
I've already been told that,
You go up to Mike, Gary.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. That's okay.
so I was told as recently as this week that these same vehicles are gonna be going up $8,500, so.
Per vehicle?
Per vehicle. So,
Holy moly.
that's if you get them.
Yeah.
So, and that's, last week, who knows? I'll be ordering, these vehicles we're trying to get now are in the 2022 budget. So, so I'll be looking to get more vehicles in 2023. But as you know, everything with inflation stuff's gonna be pretty expensive, so. But
Okay. Oh, Alex? Oh.
Commissioner Gordon. has
Oh, I'm
something.
sorry, I didn't see
What's
you.
the expected delivery time?
Yeah, so the delivery time for these now are gonna be like May. So they're gonna be 2023 vehicles, yeah,
2023 vehicles.
yeah.
So one of the things that we did a few years ago that proved to work out well is we shifted from funding vehicle purchases, just, basically in the use it or lose it, and we would take those same dollar amounts and put them into a reserve fund, because back in 2018-19, we were starting to run up against very long lead times where they were sort of desperately scrambling to get in stuff before the end of the year, mostly from a fit-up perspective. Now we're in 2022, where that's more the norm. So even though they will arrive in 2023, they will be using that pot of money we've set aside for 2022.
Okay.
So that worked out. The fear will certainly be, though, when we do a bid come January or so, that nobody responds. That's a definite fear.
I don't have the paperwork in front of me. Did we end up getting whacked for 17,000 in the last 3 days, or is that something that's gonna happen for the next round?
I'm misunderstanding your question. You mean the difference?
$8,500 increase that we paying?
Oh, no,
these
no, that'll be for next year. We're
All right.
we're not doing that this year. But they're trying to keep me abreast, because obviously we're doing the budgets, and I'm trying to figure out what what we're gonna pay for a car. And,
Well,
it's
If we
probably.
don't have a recession, we can afford it, and if we do, maybe they'll cut the price.
Right.
Who knows?
It's been problematic, but.
Okay. Stephen?
What I'm wondering about is, because we know these long lead times, should we in fact be putting out a bid for the next set of the delivery time that's extended, so that we can get into the train and
Well-
have things more in time of what we want?
Obviously, so what's been going on since I've taken this over? It used to be that you would, in 2022, you'd order your vehicle, and you'd get it in August, and that was a late delivery, August. You'd usually get them in a couple of months. But what I've been seeing the last 2 years is, we're not seeing these until 14 months, 15 months. And now it's looking, I mean, realistically, April to, we're talking 12 months out, right? A year out. So it's, by the time the vehicle comes and then someone has to build it, this, and I mean by the fit up, all that stuff. So that's timely too. So whether or not, I mean, the issues I have, I think with that is there's some contract towns that I have to talk to because, some of these cars we're buying for the contract towns. So I have to figure out whether or not they're up for a vehicle or not too. I'm not sure I really know that today, but I'll definitely have a better idea come January and February, so.
Okay. Oh, Alex?
Yeah, I would just like to say, I think Captain Joyce and Steve Wilkes did a great job making lemonade out of lemons here, because that was pretty rough, having the rug pulled right out from underneath them on the order. In past years, however, they typically would pretty much within hours of the budget getting approved, start the process for getting out that bid, which we thought we could get away from when we went to reserve fund. But now we're right back there again. So, yeah, I think you all should expect to see that bid quite quickly after the budget gets approved.
Okay, sounds good.
Is this a supply chain issue, or is this that Quirk got booted out of their
No,
program?
no, it's a supply chain. Yep, it's a supply chain.
It's like, that's why I can't get my washing machine fixed.
There you go.
Same thing.
Same reason, yeah.
It seems to have hit law enforcement vehicles particularly hard.
I think it's a business decision for Ford, right? Because fleet, they don't make any money, but when you go out and buy a car, they make all kinds of money off it, so. It's just the way it is, so.
So maybe we ought all get, what cars?
All set?
Okay.
Thank
Thank
The
you very
answer
much.
is no.
Thank you, Carrie.
The answer is no. I'm shocked.
Can I ask who was the motion and second on writing them down?
I think
I
I moved it.
You were the second. were you?
I don't care.
That's what I.
Yeah.
Yeah, close enough.
Thank you.
Did we call for a vote?
No.
Okay. Okay, if there's no further discussion, I call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. With the next item, 22-119, that we are going to postpone that, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Jim, for the explanation.
Thank you. We originally put the Main Prevention Network Grant Award on, and this is the grant that I made mention to in the workshop. This was a $3.1 million request to DHHS through the Public Health Office. They received the grant, and just last Thursday, Friday, we found out from DHHS that they're wanting to enter into negotiations on the grant versus just going with the 3.1 million. So the number is not pinned down just yet. We have Alex and I and Liz have a conference call with DHHS Thursday morning? I think it was Thursday morning of this week. This was on the agenda. We thought the 3.1 was all good to go. We're just not quite sure where it's going to land at this point until after the call on Thursday. So I'd ask the commissioners to postpone this to the December meeting. We'll have all the information by then. Thank you.
Okay.
I think it's great that they want to give us more money. Yeah.
Do we need a motion to table?
Yes, please.
I move we table item 22119.
Yeah.
Yeah, 119.
Second.
Until the December meeting.
Okay, second by Jim. Okay. If there's no further discussion, I will call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item is 22-120, the amending of the non-union personnel policy to adopt a 4-day work week and amend the non-union or PTO schedule. Jim or Amy, who's ever speaking on this?
I'll start and I'll ask Amy and Alex to jump in where I leave all the holes. Because Amy and Alex were actually the ones that spearheaded this 4-day work week policy and worked with their staffs, and they did a great job really trying to poke holes in how the policy was written right up to the last minute of publishing this agenda. We are proposing a couple of things in this item, and as I said in my position paper, these are all items that we are trying to go to that next step and be proactive in the hiring process. We know that we need to change. We cannot continue to do the same things that we've done for the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. we need to change with the times. And as the harder it gets to bring in applicants for county positions, the more we need to look internally on what our operation looks like, and are we attractive to an individual to apply for a position. We first workshopped this 4-day work week with the commissioners over the last couple of months, just to get an early barometer of whether we give us the green light moving forward. The green light was given, and Amy and Alex went to work with their staff to see what it would look like. I'd love to go down through the whole process. As you can tell in the policy, it's pretty complex because it would be a lot more streamlined if we were saying we're closing every Friday and every employee has every Friday off. That's, I think you can pinpoint a number of communities within Cumberland County that has that arrangement. It's just not feasible within our organization. We have a lot of individuals tied to the courts. Courts don't stop. We have a lot of people tied to other organizations. And having that one day that we close would be impactful. So what we have designed this policy around is really two items. First, those who would be eligible, and to be eligible, you really have to get approval from your department head and that you could actually qualify, your job is able to qualify for a 4-day work week. If that's the case, you can have the option of a 4-day work week, which then modifies your hours for the 4 days that you're working. Or if you can't do the full modification to get a full day off, you can modify those hours to work a 4.5-day work week. We're looking at, to be able to work all this, it's a 40-hour position. Lunches will be paid. Right now, lunches are not paid. So to be able to pull this off, the lunches would be paid for the non-union employees. Across the board, whether you're taking advantage of the 4-day work week or not. That is something different. But that is something that is, a lot of organizations are going in that direction, so we need to keep up. And for us to pull off the 4-day or 4.5-day work week, we need to do the same thing, or it just doesn't work. There's no cost to the county for pulling this off. We're getting the same amount of hours, it's just spread out over a shorter period of time. And again, though we will put this in for our full-timers, we are also wanting to make it clear that not every employee, unfortunately, is going to be able to do this. It's ultimately a conversation that HR, my office, finance will have with the department to see whether this is feasible for some of their employees within the department. That's the unfortunate side of things. The last part, and I just saw it, and let me think, one of my desires is to not have Monday as the day off. I believe 11 out of 13 holidays fall on a Monday, which creates problems across the board for this policy. So we would not be allowing employees to pinpoint Monday as their day off, because we are not going to give them another day that week off. I'm going to pause and ask Amy or Alex if there are any high points that I maybe have missed that would be beneficial for the commissioners to understand.
I think just in general, that this policy it is designed to be flexible, department by department, per approval from Jim ultimately. We really have to have each department go through and take a hard look at whether this can or cannot work for them, propose a plan, and then have us make that determination of yes, no. And it's going to vary tremendously department by department. For some departments, this will not be difficult at all to switch over to. Other departments, it will be extremely difficult, but I think building in that flexibility is absolutely critical in today's labor market. We've got to do these kind of things to keep up over,
And I only have one other point. what we're be asking the directors is that they will cover the standard working hours from 8 to 4:30. So there will be some staggering of some of the shifts, but at no time will the office be empty. We do recognize that we have other customers, employees that we would service, and I look at HR. The coverage would be 8 to 4:30, even if the employee schedule is staggered. We'll make sure that coverage still happens.
The next item that is part of this game plan is under section 9.3, earn time of the non-union personnel policy. The earn time currently is made up of non-management earn time scale and a management earn time scale. We're bringing forth some amendments to those two scales. The first amendment is to mirror the non-union, non-management earn time scale to that of the management earn time scale. And really what that does is it eliminates the years 1 to 3. For a 40-hour-a-week employee, they would get 160 hours per year of PTO time. We are eliminating that, and we are starting the scale at the 200 hours per year. So we're dropping the 160. That mirrors the management earn scale and keeping consistency between non-management and management. Additionally, we're modifying the language within the management side of this policy. Currently, non-management employees accrue vacation on a monthly basis. And management employees accrue their vacation in a one lump sum in January of a given year. So they get all their vacation, all the PTO time front-loaded. We want to bring a greater balance between non-management and management. And so we've inserted language that kind of puts a stop to that all lump sum January 1st of a given year for future management employees. So those individuals that find themselves in management positions today will be grandfathered under this policy. Those management positions that are filled after January 1st, 2023 will be treated the same as non-management for accrual purposes, and it will be on a monthly basis, not a one lump sum at the beginning of January. So we feel as though that brings greater parity between non-management and management, between changing the PTO scales and bringing eventually more and more management employees on an accrual basis, much like a non-management employee. Lastly, and I've made mention to this, one of the byproducts of the 4-day workweek policy is a need to amend section 15-2 or .2 meal period. And then that change, it currently reads a 30-minute unpaid meal period shall be taken ... We are changing it to a 30-minute paid meal period shall be taken ... Just recognizing that we will now be paying for lunchtimes for all non-union employees as a result of the implementation of the 4-day work week. So, as I said, we appreciate your offering your suggestions back at the workshop on the 4-day work week. It really gave us a lot of creative ideas over the last couple of weeks in creating this policy, and we hope that we are heading in the right direction for you to approve that policy and the earn time policy this evening, so that we can move forward with this and having an effective January 1st, 2023. Amy, Alex, and I are here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yeah, paid holidays are how many hours?
8.
8.
So the person in the week that has, will lose 2 hours of pay.
They will have to compensate for that. This is, we spent many hours on this one. It will be a straight 8 period, regardless of the schedule that person happens to work on that day, which has good points and bad points, but you got to pick a lane and go with it.
So do we have any other questions?
And we'd be happy to talk to you about it for 3 or 4 hours off, because
Seeing none. We need to have a vote on this?
I move, we haven't moved passage, have we?
No, we have
No.
not.
I move passage of item 22120, to amending the non-union personnel policy to adopt a 4-day work week and amending non-union PTO schedule.
I'll second it.
Second, okay.
Discussion.
Okay, discussion.
Are there any other quirks to it that, so nothing else is being changed as far as benefits, hours?
No, what you see there is what's being changed.
Okay.
Jim?
I thought there was a lot here. Looked like a pretty comprehensive effort. And I would guess that after 6 months or a year of experience, there might be a couple of tweaks here and there, but by and large, I expect you won't be the last person to think about the 8-hour rule on holidays and that kind of stuff, but we'll see how that works.
Steve?
Yeah, Jim brings up a good point, and I just toss it out as a thought. To make this a trial, so that if something really goes haywire, you can, there's an end date, because you can always then pass it.
We've built that into the policy that we can terminate it, and plus there's an exception line at the end of it that Jim is allowed to make, has that ability to make exceptions as they come up,
I thought I read that.
just in case.
If there's no other discussion, I call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item, 22-114, the authorization of acceptance of the federal law enforcement behavioral health response program grant. And this had been tabled from the October 11th, 2022 meeting. Yes?
The proposal that was tabled, does that require an amendment of any sort
I
before we go
don't,
forward?
no.
Or is it still the same?
It's still the same, right?
still the same, yes?
It's still the same. Okay.
But wait a minute, you're talking about this meeting or then the last meeting?
We tabled a
Proposal.
a proposal in October to this meeting.
This is the same proposal as
So
that,
this is
yes.
exactly the same.
The numbers changed?
Yes, the numbers have changed, yes. I guess
So do we have to-
conceptually, this is the same thing.
And all of the discussion took place in our workshop today.
Correct.
Right.
So one thing we might want to do is change the proposal to the extent that we're changing the money, and then do whatever we're going to do. Right? Or do we need to?
I think it's the same agenda item regardless. But yes, I mean, the numbers did
Are we
change from last.
appropriating the money tonight? No. Or not?
We're accepting,
Depends what we do.
Yeah.
Right.
If you accept this grant, you're in a sense appropriating the money one way or the other.
We're going to have to do it someday if we go through with this, right?
You tell the sheriff, if you accept it, whether you tell the sheriff that he needs to find it within his existing budget, whether you want to raise it, or any other method of covering the cost that it's going to take for year 1 and year 2 over the next 8 months.
So how much of this has to go through the finance committee on Wednesday night? Anything?
Depends on what direction you want to hit.
right. So, okay, let's go back on that, Jim, if it's accepted, then finance for the next 2 years would have to come up with how much?
50,000.
No.
$53,776.77.31.
That's what would cover the 18-month span of the upcoming budget process.
And there'd be a like amount in the following year.
All right.
the following year would end up ultimately being the 23-24 budget, which is not presently on the table, and that would be that county match of 51,000.
Yes, okay.
So I'm fine to leave it as it is. I may have a proposed amendment anyway, so still trying to formulate it.
I move we table it.
I'll second the motion.
Can I speak to the tabling motion?
Yes, you can.
We table it, we kill it, because they can't accept the grant after tomorrow or
Thursday.
the next day, something like that. I think that's why we're having this meeting tonight.
Mm.
So I'd like to discuss it a little more before we decide to kill it, if that's what we end up doing, but, and like I say, I'm thinking about an amendment anyway, but
What's the amendment you're thinking about?
I'm thinking that the proposal we should not pass this proposal, is what I'm thinking. But a proposal we might consider passing would require that this be coordinated between the sheriff's office and the public health office, and the administrative requirements that particularly that Alex's office needs to have executed, be assured, and that whatever the administrative structure is that the county manager puts together for that set of purposes would be a condition of approval of the grant. In other words, expanding the operations and the management of the program to include public health in the executive office, instead of having it run strictly as a law enforcement process.
But Jim, you indicated that you understood that if it's not passed in the next 3 days, it expires.
Right? Well, we can pass it and add a rider to it that says this is how we want to run.
Or
That's what I'm saying.
one of the options is to, if it's possible, for the sheriff to find the $54,000 in his budget.
That would be another way to do it, sure. But, you know, I do kind of object to, you pass a budget for 15 different purposes, and then the first thing you do is start rearranging the purposes. That's we have a responsibility to ourselves, and frankly, to the finance committee is legally required for whatever they do or don't do. You know, so to just reminds me of the good old days in Portland when they never had any money. They would they'd fund all kinds of programs, and then they'd say, oh, and part of our revenue is $3 million in management economies. Well, that means we're telling the manager to go find $3 million in the budget and get rid of it. And you can do whatever you want. Well, doing whatever you want really transfers the responsibility from the people who are responsible for it to managers who need to cope with the fact that the people that are elected to do this stuff don't actually do it. So I don't want to, I, as a matter of principle, want to avoid that. We shouldn't just say, you know, sheriff, go find $1 million and do whatever you want to do. That's not proper budgeting as far as I'm concerned. Or $100,000 or whatever number you want to pick.
But is it responsible budgeting to commit to funding this for 3 years and then cliff it? I mean, you discussed that already. You know, if we go down this road, there's not going to be money 3 years from now, unless we fund it to the tune of $400,000 or $500,000. I'm not convinced, won't be my issue, but I'm not convinced that in 3 years from now, we're going to have that ability, unless we decide to fund that area. It's a very needed area, but, you know, our budgets are so tight.
Well, my answer to that is, if we take on the responsibility, we have it. And, you know, it's possible that the state will wake up, or somebody else will, or that nobody will. And the service area to be served by this is insufficient. So it's clearly, the implication of what we do tonight says that there is going to be some grinding of the gears probably for the next 3 years and beyond, and you're right. Either it gets funded because it's a worthwhile operation, or the cliff is fine. I think, I'll direct this to somebody in the audience, I think there's an absolute commitment for year 4. You know, we gotta fund it, part of the grant says that we're gonna fund it fully in year 4 for a while. And, I'll verify that with anybody.
No.
Is that true?
No,
Okay, wait, okay,
Please, the
yes,
microphone.
okay, the mic, yeah.
there's no commitment in year 4.
All right.
You can drop it if you so desire.
All right, I stand corrected on that.
But to that, how does it look with that we accept something, we do it for 3 years, and then there's no money, and we drop it?
That's, that, I mean, the flip side of that is, we don't do it at all because we don't have funding 3 years out, and we don't do it tonight just because there's money available. You know, this is, you know, clearly, this is a carrot and a stick, you know, in a lot of ways, so. That's, I think it's pretty important, but I would not, I think we need to have a different outlook on what it's for and how it's supposed to work. And to me, it is not necessarily just an issue of having to send a deputy to the same place 25 times. It has to do with a larger question and a broader geography. So that's what I would propose as an amendment to this, and frankly, without that, I have even more serious question about it than I have with it.
I don't think whether we can amend it, well, can we? The grant?
You wouldn't be amending the amount that the grant's for, or any of the criteria. It sounds like Jim's looking to place the responsibility of the grant in public health versus in the sheriff's office. If I'm wrong? Jim, your mic's not on. I'm sorry.
I think I'm not sure.
No, we like it that way, please.
His battery died. His battery died.
So Jim, I'll answer that this way. Frankly, I'm throwing it in your lap, I think, because clearly the sheriff's got an involvement, or the sheriff's department has got an involvement in this. I think public health needs to have, especially since they're running a parallel program, involvement in this. And I think Alex has already realigned things somehow in this process to make sure that the documentation requirements get met. And so, you know, that, it sounds to me like there's more than just the sheriff's department who has every reason to be involved, but broader involvement than all of that. So I think it lands on your desk, and you'll parcel that out as you need to. I think that's what I would assume,
Commissioner Gordon?
since you have nothing else to do.
Jim, I share your concern about the mental health part of it. I mean, I'm supporting that and everything I can do with the state. My concern here is for us in the property tax that we're looking at charging our citizens. Where I see this issue having a problem is this grant gets us started into 15 communities within our county. At the end of that, if we're spending funds that we're taxing all communities for, or all citizens for, I think they have the ability, or that they should be feeling, gee, we should be getting the same kind of service. And at that point, I believe the costs just, they go asymptotic. Now, that's not to say that it shouldn't be addressed. I totally agree with that. I just think it's bigger than the county, and I think it's an issue that the state has got to come in and handle. For us to start it off and then it drops off and people have become dependent on it, that's where I see it. I'm sorry.
I agree a lot with that, of course.
Okay, do we have any other further discussion?
Could I jump in just a
You
little
sure
bit
can.
on this piece of it? With regard to any kind of a DOJ grant, there's a pretty specific structure to how it works. There is a grant administrator who is somebody is designated as the person in charge of that grant. At this moment in time, that person is Captain Smith. That person is also in charge of what is referred to as the quarterly programmatic report, which is basically that person has to submit how it's going, in essence. Then there is also a quarterly financial report, which falls on finance. That part tends to be pretty simple. It's what was spent, submit it, and get reimbursement. From the Department of Justice perspective, those are, in essence, the component units of any grant. They don't really allow a lot of leeway in terms of changing that up too much. So at the end of the day, there isn't much option to deviate from that exact format, given that it's already been put in. So it's possible that in addition to the budget modification that needs to occur to switch it from procurement of services, also a change could be done to the grant administration piece, but I don't know how that outcome would work. Just because they are pretty linear about how this functions.
Well, I will say that sounds pretty discouraging towards what I had in mind, no question.
Comment, if that's okay. If it makes you feel better, I have an associate's degree in health studies, a bachelor's in psychology, and a master's in policy planning and management. So I'm not going into this blindly.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further
So
discussion.
I withdraw my amendment.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I call for vote, those,
We don't have a motion.
The motion was to
Oh,
table.
was it?
at the
Oh,
table.
So,
why don't, we? Well, okay, sorry, but why don't we just
is it possible
vote to turn it, vote to.
to withdraw
vote to
our
turn it-
motion?
Vote to turn it
Yeah.
down.
I'll withdraw my second.
I would draw the table.
I mean, because I would dearly love to get this thing moving, but I'm not seeing that this is given the time constraints and given what I'm hearing from Alex is we really can't rewrite the program in our acceptance of it. It's sort of fixed. I mean, is that the thrust of your comment?
Yeah, I mean, the budget modification right out of the gate to go from procurement contract to subrecipient is one thing. It's not overly uncommon. It's a little unusual for it to occur right out of the gate, right like that. Changing the grant administrator is sort of an all or nothing. It could conceivably, I don't know the answer to that. That's all.
Fair enough. So I mean,
Yeah.
because my concern is we try to do that, and then we say, write to Merritt Garland and say, we've accepted. Oh, and by the way, it's now, this person's out, this person's in, and this department's doing it, and not the sheriff's department. And if they say no, we're not accepting that, have we accepted a grant that we're out of compliance with at the beginning, or, I mean, I think this is just making me feel like we're entering into a very chaotic phase that I'm not sure we've got the bandwidth to deal with right now.
If
I
they
know you
were
guys
to
will do
accept
whatever-
the modifications, the grant would go forward under those modifications. If they were to reject the modifications, then the grant would in all likelihood
Just go away.
die on the vine. This is new territory for me. We haven't found ourselves in this spot before.
But we'd have to do that all before.
Thursday.
All before Thursday, so, yeah, so,
So,
okay.
you tell me. And just to be clear, I wasn't proposing that the grant administrator now become the public health department. I think that really Jim would have to figure out in my mind, Jim would have to figure out how to make this work so that instead of having two programs running, simultaneously, we actually would at least be trending towards one program that shared elements of common management. That's, I do think that's another crazy element of this, is that we're talking about two limited programs.
Okay.
But I've withdrawn that motion, so if somebody else wants to make it, fine.
Okay, I'm going to call for vote. All those in favor of it?
No, we don't have
Oh.
a motion at all.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. That's,
Move passage.
I'll second that
okay.
for discussion.
What is it? Any more discussion? Okay, I call for a vote. All those in favor of this grant? The grant, it
Well,
fails.
call
Oh,
for,
wait.
you have to say,
Oh.
all opposed.
Okay, yes.
'Cause we've got to be
Is
on
all
record.
those opposed of the grant? Okay, so, the grant fails. So, okay. Moving on, we have an executive session. Can we take 5 minutes before we go into that executive session, so we can get turned off and
So I have a question.
Oh,
Should-
yes.
Does it
I'm
make
sorry.
sense to do our comments, or are we going to have to come back out and report?
We have to come back
We're going to
out.
have to come back out and report.
we have to come back out?
All right.
Because we have to accept.
And I would propose that we come out, go in and come out for the first executive session, and then go back in for the second executive session, so
Okay.
that we can
Right.
realign the deck chairs.
Okay, yep.
And then come out of that executive session, and we'll finish up the meeting after that.
Okay. Okay, so we take 5 minutes or so, and then we'll,
You want to go into executive session?
Oh, yes,
first,
yes,
and then you can
yes,
come back
I have,
I move we go into executive session.
Second.
oh, okay, you want to read that, Neil?
Yeah, pursuant to MRSA 4056A, to discuss compensation for the sheriff.
Okay.
Second.
Is all those in favor? Okay. We are now in executive session, so,
5 minutes, right? for her, but I like it.
Vote, and then we're gonna go back to executive session, so it's gonna-
Okay.
No, you gotta turn yours on. She's just gonna turn the volume down, so we don't have to turn them off again.
Oh, okay.
Without the battery.
Yeah, that one's dead.
Oh, okay.
I've got green here, and there's,
Okay.
I don't need.
Yeah, we don't want you to have one, Jim.
Did I make a motion with that?
When you're ready.
You can't, you're the chair.
Oh,
Sorry.
I just want to do it.
6 more weeks you can.
Do you need a countdown or countdown?
We need countdown.
We'd like an official countdown, please.
Happy to provide it. 5, 4, 3.
Okay, we are out of executive session.
No, we need a vote to come out.
so moved,
Movie come out of. the-
I need a vote to come out of executive session.
so moved.
And seconded by Steve, okay. All those in favor to come out of
Aye.
executive?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Now,
I move we go back into executive session pursuant to MRSA 4056D and 4056A for the discussion of contract negotiations and compensation. Is that right? No. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, right.
yeah,
Yes, yeah, right.
contract.
Second.
Second? Okay. I call for vote. All those in favor going, okay.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are now in executive session. Okay, we are out of I need a motion to come
So
out.
moved.
Second.
Is all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are out of executive session. So Jim, do I need to go into that one motion?
Yes.
Okay, Neil, would you read with the motion, please?
I move that we approve the 2021-2022 financial incentive fee for Oak Hill Group in accordance with the CIA management agreement and the Maine Mariners subsidy for 2021-2022 season. This is for the professional company that manages the cross-insurance arena.
Second.
Okay. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, I call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on, comments from the county manager. You have 3 minutes.
No, I will pass this time, and I will catch
Oh,
up
no.
with everyone in December.
No, okay, no, you can talk if you want.
I'll just announce that this Wednesday night at 5 o'clock in this room, we hope to have our last Finance Committee meeting. The Finance Committee has done a fantastic job this year. What a great group of people representing the different communities across the county. We've had a good process that's unfolded over the last 3 months. A lot of good questions, keeping Alex and I on our toes and the departments that have presented in front of them. This Wednesday night is the last department. The sheriff is in front of the Finance Committee. And it's our hopes that after the sheriff is done, the Finance Committee will work through their recommendation to the commissioners, in which that will give us the green light to move our budget presentation to next Monday, the 14th, in a workshop in which we will present the budget again to the commissioners and the recommendations of the Finance Committee to the commissioners. Also slated for that workshop is that we will be bringing up round 2 of the ARPA tranche 2 conversation, priorities, criteria for funding, so that we can move that additional tranche 2 funds out to worthwhile projects across the county. And so we have 1 or 2 other smaller items on that workshop, but those are the 2 main ones. So we will be back in this room next Monday, the 14th. So thank you.
So is that a meeting and a workshop, or just a workshop?
It's just a workshop.
Oh, it's just a workshop, oh, okay. Okay. Alex, do you have anything?
Just 2 quick comments. As we're heading towards the end of the 2022 budget year, there are definite signs that everything is starting to revert much closer to pre-COVID normalcy. Not too many areas that are really showing a deficit, more on a positive, so we'll still be good. But definitely a lot more of our line items, and in particular, our revenues at the Registry of Deeds coming in much, much closer to historical averages. And we're seeing that across the board for all of the various areas. So that's one area that's, as opposed to the past few years where numbers were kind of all over the place, we're getting a lot closer to normal. And just a final congratulations to Amy, the HR staff, finance staff, on their work on the compressed work week. I think that's going to go a really long way towards hiring and retention.
Okay. Or was Amy, do you have anything? No. Okay, well, comments from the county commissioners. Commissioner Cludia.
No, I'm all set, thank you.
That's a historic statement.
Yeah, really? Can we have that in writing, please? Commissioner Coward.
I don't have anything for this evening. It's been a long, long night.
Commissioner Gordon.
Yes, thank you. Very briefly, let you know that the Maine County Commissioners Association are thinking about some legislation, and one of them is rural patrol, and that will be coming forth in probably a document of some sort here in the future. The other is the issue with fees for the deeds. Apparently, something brought to my attention by the manager is starting to creep across the state, and it's where outside entities are copying everything that they can from deeds and selling the information. So we've got to find a way to work some legislation on that so that it's our information and we're the ones that are compensated. Thank you.
Commissioner Jameson.
Thank you. With the change in daylight saving time, just want to caution everyone out there that when you're out on the roads, it gets dark at 5 o'clock now, just be careful for all the kiddos. Buses will be done by then, but there'll be other activities and movement around, so let's all be cautious about that fact. I would like to wish all the families out there a happy and pleasant and restful Thanksgiving. It's a time to take a break from the rat race that we all are in day to day and enjoy your family for a few days. So all of us wish you a very thankful and happy Thanksgiving. And I would like to congratulate the Scarborough girls soccer team who won a double overtime victory in the state championship this past Saturday, 2 days ago. So congrats to the Scarborough girls.
Thank you. And I don't have anything because it's been a long evening, so I would like to see a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You know, I have a headlight out.